Now it's time to go to Brussels. As we mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, this year's edition of the European Days of Jewish Culture is very special, and it is part of the NOA project. Networks Overcoming Anti-Semitism of the Rights, Equality and Citizenship Program of the European Union. The leader partner of the project is an institution that for us is a reference. We are big fans of them, and they do a unique job standing with people of all backgrounds to promote a Europe of diversity and respect. It is the CEJI, a Jewish contribution to an inclusive Europe. I have the pleasure now of giving the floor to Robin Sclafani, director of CEJI, and somewhat the architect of the NOA project. Robin has over 25 years experience in developing and delivering anti-bias training programs for various target groups. All the meetings with her have always been a source of inspiration, and I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank Robin for all her work on behalf of this project, her confidence and her leadership. Robin, thank you very much for being with us today. The floor is yours.
Oh gosh, thank you, Victor. That's it's such a sweet introduction, and I really appreciate it. It is really a great pleasure and honor to be with you today and in the preparations for these European Days of Jewish Culture, which are centered around the theme of dialogue. This is, as you said, in the context of the project called NOA, and the name NOA is significant because in Hebrew it means in motion. And this name was chosen because we as a partnership, we need movement. We need to go beyond the status quo where anti-Semitism remains a problem which we must incessantly fight. In this project NOA, which brings together several major Jewish organizations, networks, which you're going to hear a lot more about from my colleagues in a few minutes, our aim is to move into a world where we do not need to fight all the time, where we can live in an inclusive and democratic Europe where Jewish communities thrive. But we're not naive. We hear the reports that anti-Semitic incidents are on the rise. We know that hate speech targeting Jews is a big problem on the internet, and that identifying oneself as Jewish at work or on the streets with a kippah, for instance, is a risk that can end up in harassment or assault. And we know that in many countries, Jewish families do not feel secure to send their children to public schools. And since the anti-Semitic terrorist attacks in 2014 and 2015, there is more political will to address anti-Semitism, to provide more security for Jewish buildings, and this is progress. But it is not enough, and Jewish communities will not thrive under these conditions. Anti-Semitic incidents are indicators of a larger problem. They are escalations up the pyramid of hate, built upon a strong foundation which provides fertile ground upon which prejudice can grow, to discriminatory acts, to hate incidents, to hate violence. The foundation of the pyramid of hate is bias, the tendencies which people have to favor one group over another, the stereotypes which have been implanted in our unconscious minds, the blind spots which we all have. And in relation to anti-Semitism, the blind spots which exist in the European narrative that render Jewish history and culture invisible, unknown, not even a consideration, except of course in relation to the Shoah, Israel, and the problem of anti-Semitism. Bias often looks like passive resistance or ambivalence to the issues we face as Jewish communities, or a resistance to hearing the contributions and perspectives which we can bring to coalitions in so many different fields of action. So the question we ask is, how can we counter existing bias about Jews, and how can we prevent it from taking roots inside people's minds? And this is the work that we're doing at CEJI through our anti-bias training and dialogue work. And this is the work that AEPJ is doing and the European Days of Jewish Culture is doing, past, present, and future, even if you may or may not have understood your work in this way. So over the last 20 years, there has been a lot of research done about how the human brain and unconscious bias functions. And more recently, there are some really interesting findings about what works to counter, to neutralize, or to prevent unconscious bias. And I'd just like to highlight a few of these to you now because it demonstrates how your work is an anti-bias work. The most obvious here is cultural awareness. Why? Because to counter negative biases, we need to replace the simplistic, limited, or stereotypical images in our brains with positive images that reflect the diversity and complexity of Jewish life, past and present. We need to provide enough awareness of Jewish culture and history so that people do not rely so much on assumptions and misinformation. So, and that the work you do is essential for raising cultural awareness about Jews and Judaism. Another strategy is called approach behaviors. This reflects intergroup contact theory, which means that having contact with Jewish people, organizations, and culture will reduce the strangeness, the otherness, and therefore the discomfort or anxiety that people may feel that might prevent them from being more proactively inclusive, even unconsciously. The work that you do, facilitating contact between the non-Jewish and Jewish spheres, is crucial for developing approach behaviors. And then there is the strategy which is called perspective taking. And this refers to the capacity for empathy, to see things from other perspectives, humanized perspectives, so that Jewish people are humanized rather than demonized, seen and heard rather than generalized. And this is the work of dialogue, the theme of these European Days of Jewish Culture 2021. It is a work which you are so well positioned to facilitate in your role as cultural actors, and which we hope to nurture and valorize in these days coming up here in September. And finally, there's one more strategy I'd like to mention here, because it is a technique that can be used in dialogue work. And this is self-linking. Self-linking happens when we make links between people and across identity groups that help to form a new we, so that out-groups come together as part of the same in-group. And through the work of dialogue, happening in the sharing of culture and heritage, understanding different perspectives and creating a new sense of we in the cities where we work, then we are agents of social change. We are vectors of intercultural engagement, and we are facilitators of cooperation on shared concerns. So I'm so sorry, because I'm really passionate about all of this. And in some ways, I'm sure it must seem even intuitive to you and to all of us. But it's so great to have scientific research about how the way the brain functions to validate what we know is important and why we do what we do. But we need to give it, we need to use this research and really make sure that this is getting increasing visibility on the scene and increasingly valorized. I'm just so inspired and hopeful for what is possible in this. And I'm sure that our combined efforts will help to influence the European and national policymakers to give more importance to the field of education and culture, because this is what is needed to truly address the problem of anti-Semitism in the long term. So I can't wait for September 21 to arrive, to reach this milestone in the NOA project, and hopefully see lots of new dialogue taking place, and even, dare I say, in person. So have a really great meeting now in preparation.
Thank you very, very much, Robin, for your inspiring words and work, and for all your passion. It's really contagious, and I'm not talking about the pandemics. As we have mentioned several times already today, this year's European Days of Jewish Culture is run under the umbrella of the European NOA project, Networks Overcoming Anti-Semitism. The opportunity to be part of this project is not only allowing us to grow and improve our festival in a very special way, but it gives us the chance to really make an impact, to, through dialogue, understanding, and cooperation, contribute to the betterment of Europe, a more pluralistic, more inclusive, and more dialogue-oriented Europe. And this will not be possible without the dedicated and courageous work of the staff of CEJI, a Jewish contribution to an inclusive Europe. Tamás Buchler and Camila Piastro work from Brussels to coordinate the NOA project and act as leader partners of this ambitious project. Theirs is a complicated and detailed job, as they have to bring all the project partners together, respond to all of our concerns and needs, and make sure that we all do our part of the job. I personally admire Tommy and Camila for the work they are doing, and I am very thrilled to introduce them to you in this context. Tamás Buchler is originally from Hungary. He has served previously as the director of the Israeli Cultural Institute in Budapest. But before that, he worked for the Jewish Agency Global Leadership Institute as the director of Minyamin, a network of young community activists from Europe. He holds an MA in law and undertook teacher training in Jewish studies. He also completed the University of Haifa's Peace and Conflict Studies program and the Social Impact program of the University of Pennsylvania. In these last couple of years, he worked with global Jewish organizations such as the Jewish Agency, Masa, Limud, and the Schusterman Foundation, and René Cassin. Camila Piastro was born in Barcelona and originally is from Mexico. Camila is graduated of International Relations and holds a diploma in Peace and Gender Studies. Passionate about intersectional justice, Camila has worked in the Jewish community of Barcelona and other projects such as Salam Shalom Barcelona and Women Lawyer for Social Justice in Tel Aviv. Currently pursuing her master's in Euroculture, Society, Politics, and Culture in Global Context, Camila is writing her master's thesis on the institutionalization of intersectionality in the European Union. Now, without further ado, it's a great honor and pleasure for me to give the floor to Tommy and Camila.
Thank you, Fede. I think that Camila is going to share her screen in a minute, so you will be able to see our slides. So yeah, it's happening. I think it's happening now. So first of all, thank you, Victor and Assumpcio and Fede for having us here today. It's really a great honor and a pleasure to be able to talk with all of you today. In the next couple of minutes, we are going to tell you a little bit more about NOA and what's out there besides the European Days of Jewish Culture. And we are also going to tell you a few opportunities how you can get involved and how you might be able to partner up with us. Given that we know that this is a long Zoom call and probably some of you are already a little bit tired of sitting in front of the screen, we will try to make it as interactive as possible. So as Fede said earlier, we encourage you also to use the chat box. If you have any questions while we are talking, feel free to ask away. We can really make it more like a conversation. I know that we are almost 100 people on the call, so I just assume that you won't have like more than a couple of questions each, so we can try to make it as interactive as possible. So yeah, we called this short presentation "When Plaster is Not Enough" because we believe that very often, when we think about anti-Semitism and combating anti-Semitism, we immediately, jump to the concept of, of security and how we can make our spaces more secure and how we can make our life more secure, which is indeed an important issue. But if you think long term, in the generations to come and in our potential in Europe, security is not the only conversation we have to have as different stakeholders of the European Jewish future. So before we move on, Camila has a question, I think. Hi, Camila.
Hi, everybody, and thank you. Assumpcio, Fede, Victor, and all the rest of participants and organizations that have made possible this session. Yeah, and thank you, Tammy. I think when we designed the session, we were thinking about making a little bit, beginning with a little bit of a more participatory way. So for that, I will need 10 or max 10 volunteers. I will encourage those people who have already used Menti in order to facilitate this process. So if you could write in the chat box, maybe who would like to be a volunteer, it would be a really helpful. Maybe Tommy, could you control, because I don't have access to the chat box right now.
I
If
do.
there's people enough that I would like to volunteer. So those people maybe could go to www.menti.com and use the code that you have in the upper side of the slide. So 94 for 7049. And maybe you can write in the chat box when you're ready to go. Tommy, let me know.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get, where do we have the code?
So, hi, Edith.
Hello, everybody. I'm really sorry. Yes, I was very focused.
We have the website on the upper side of the slide.
Oh, God. Yes. It's been a long day. Thank you.
And then you have the code. Perfect. I think we have 2 people.
Yeah, I think we have a couple already.
Perfect.
Hello.
We can start. The first question is the following one. What are the first words that come to your mind when you hear overcoming anti-Semitism? Education, great. Equality, respect. Positive, fighting. Security, extremism, happiness, peace, embracing, fighting. Amazing, great. I think we're having a great bunch of words. I think this exercise, we wanted to start with this exercise because I think it's very illustrative to see our personal relationship to, first of all, anti-Semitism, and then how do we think that we can overcome and address anti-Semitism. And I think here the crucial aspect is our relation to anti-Semitism and our own experiences to anti-Semitism. And I think we wanted to also start this presentation by explaining you and translating a little bit about the meaning behind the project. And for that, we would like to start a bit with the storytelling and explain a little bit of our own experiences in regards to anti-Semitism. So Tammy, maybe I can start and then you can continue. I think it was really fun to realize that Tammy and I have very different experiences and we come from quite different backgrounds. In my case, I was born in Barcelona. I'm the first generation of a Mexican family born in Barcelona. And when I think about my personal experience of anti-Semitism throughout my life, the first words that come to my mind as invisibility. Like I remember growing up with a clear distinction of spaces, like that safe space, home, where I could freely feel the taste, the smell, the colors, the music, of somehow my Jewish Mexican identity, and then this sort of outside world where my identity was quite unknown. And I think for me, it meant, and it's funny because I really can compare with the experience of other people in Barcelona. And for me, my experience was really growing up with zero representation in society and with little access to culture, to my culture in school, except of that like short of half of a page in our history book where it sort of explained that Jews were those expelled in 1492 and they never came back again. So maybe it wasn't literally like this, but I think I wouldn't be that far. And I think that clearly marked my Jewish identity in my teenager years, especially in high school when I had the first lecture on the Second World War and on the Shoah, and of course Jews were portrayed as a sort of passive victims. And randomly the same week we also got a lecture on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and the teacher ended the session with a video game where the students could play being Israeli soldiers. So it was really interesting or shocking for me. Through the eyes of my classmates, I started I was seen, first of all, as I was completely invisible, to then be a passive victim, to then be a perpetrator of a conflict in the Middle East. So I think for me, and of course there are other events throughout my life, but that was really marked my Jewish identity in my teenage years, right? And I think when I think why this project speaks to me, not only professionally, but also personally, it's because it really tries to move on from this traditional securitizing perspective and tries to include a really wide range of fields to understand how anti-Semitism articulates in our society. So that would be my case. Maybe we can hear Tommy now a bit more about your experience.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it short because we are already like, I think, a little bit of delay. I wanted to say that, like growing up in Central Europe and in Eastern Europe is a bit of a different story from growing up in Barcelona. But I think the common ground there is that it was always, part of our life. And I think it's being in a Jewish bubble, in a Jewish community, kind of makes you always sometimes blind on what's happening around you, because you just have the opportunity to shy away from that. But I think that it took me years to understand that there are ways to combat it in a more systemic way. And when I first heard about NOA, I guess that was when certain things clicked, and I understood that there are tools out there that are available for us as different actors in the Jewish communities. So yeah, so I think we can move to the next slide, which is I guess very much part of the NOA story, is the Council Declaration on the Fight Against Anti-Semitism, which explicitly calls on the member state to develop national action plans, national strategies to overcome anti-Semitism in a holistic manner. With other words, to approach the topic from different angles. And one of the ways we are aiming to do it with NOA, with the NOA project, is to create so-called report cards, which is a tool for these governments sorry, before we get there, there is a disclaimer about our different partners. So maybe before I explain more about the report cards, I just want to mention that the NOA project is being mostly subsidized and funded by the European Commission. And it's a partnership of 6 European Jewish organizations, including the European Union of Progressive Judaism, APJ, obviously, that was introduced earlier today, the European Union of Jewish Students, the World Jewish Congress, Neighborhood Europe, and CEJI, a Jewish contribution to an inclusive Europe. So this is the kind of conglomeratum. This is the partnership that makes NOA happen. But of course, we won't be able to do everything without others, stakeholders, local affiliates, and partner organizations who are joining us on this journey. So I think we can move to the next slide, which is indeed about the report cards. So the report cards is a tool based on research and evidence to keep the governments accountable and engage them to develop these national strategies, national action plans to overcome anti-Semitism. So what is happening that our partners and our experts designed and created actual sheets with based on international standards, legal documents, and standard and international indicator questions that are asking questions in 10 different topics, including sports, education, media, interfaith dialogue, religious freedoms, and I'm going to show you later on the full list of the different topics. And through hundreds of indicator questions, we are scoring these countries where we are testing the method. And in the end of the day, once our experts and researchers are finishing to find all these answers, we are actually going to have scored report cards in these 5 countries. To show how these governments are taking active steps to combat anti-Semitism in these countries. With other words, let's say we are doing it currently in 5 different countries, including Sweden, Italy, Croatia, Belgium, and Hungary. There will be a set of questions, for example, in the field of education. Each question is going to get a score, and every topic is going to get a score. We are going to get to an average. So we will have, in the end of the day, a report that says that Hungary got to, let's say, 70 out of 100. And these are the recommendations that, based on our evidence and based on research, we would recommend to the Hungarian government. And these are the certain points where Hungary is already doing great, and these are the points where Hungary could do even better. So in that sense, we are going to give feedback and benchmarks to these countries so they have a tool where they can build their national action plans upon. So that's one part of NOA, and currently in these 5 countries, this research is taking place. We are just receiving the first draft reports, and in the end of the day, we are going to have a full document with all the scores, which can be actually a very interesting tool also for you to build into your programs. I think we can move to our next slide. Yeah, it's just a kind of idea based on Ilga's rainbow map on how it might look like in the future. I think we can go to the next slide. Yeah, next slide, because we are kind of running out of time. Yes, so these were the report cards that are aiming policy change. The other part of the NOA project, which also can be very interesting for many of you, who is answering our questions? There is a question in the chat box. That's actually a very good question. So the researchers are conducting interviews with government officials, stakeholders, and experts. So literally, once we have the entire set of indicator questions, the different topics, we are trying to find all the local experts who can help us to find and give us the answers for these questions. So, so it might be ministry officials, it might be heads of, local schools, it can be heads of sport clubs, depending on the topic. But the people who are giving us the questions are giving us the questions that are very much answering the issues about authorities. So it's not like, just to make sure that I get it straight, we are not researching anti-Semitism. We are not researching the impact of anti-Semitism. What we are researching is what the actual authorities are doing to prevent it and combat it. So we are looking at government and measures of authorities. So yeah, that's another great question. So the countries that are participate now are 5 countries where we are testing it, but we are more than open to run the same procedure in other countries in the future. Actually, we are very much hoping that it will happen. But I also have to tell you that these report cards and the indicator questions are going to be available, and they will be on our website once the process is finalized. So it can be used for self-assessment as well. So if we have the set of indicator questions online, any government can go through them. Of course, we are talking about hundreds and hundreds of questions in each and every topic. So we are talking about a lot of questions, but it can be conducted in any other countries. And yes, culture is definitely one of our score sheets, one of the report cards. So we are also measuring government policies when it comes to culture. So that's also going to be an available resource for you later on. So another part of the NOA project that I wanted to raise attention, because it can be very relevant for many of you, is our trainings, our train the trainers, which will happen in English and in French later this year, hopefully in person. We are very much looking forward to have in-person trainings where we are going to introduce the new version of the updated Overcoming Anti-Semitism training manuals. And we are hoping to train educators who will go back to their countries and communities after the training to run workshops for hundreds and hundreds of people. So we are looking at a set of multipliers that will train on our new educational pedagogic materials and resources. Some of them will be downloadable open sources that you have access to, but also we are in a couple of weeks, couple of months, we are going to start to recruit participants and trainers for our trainings. So if you know people in your countries who would be interested to run such workshops in your communities, then an open call will go out soon, and people will be more than welcome to apply. So of course we don't have endless amount of spots, but I think we are happy to receive applications from anywhere. So that's also an opportunity out there. So as for the next slide, I think we can move on. Yeah, Camila, it's your turn now.
Yeah, I was thinking, I don't think this slide needs a proper explanation. This is why we are all here. And just, I think Robin was very clear and very passionate about let you all know how culture and it's a crucial element in order to diffuse positive narratives, deconstruct stereotypes, and really let understand what are the contributions of the Jewish people in Europe. So all again, I think throughout this meeting and through the European Days of Jewish Culture, we'll be able to really understand better, especially how multicultural dialogue is a crucial pillar to cultural change and to overcome anti-Semitism. I think, Tammy, you can also maybe
So another other part of the of NOA is our social media campaign called Profiles, where we are featuring recent positive contributions to a democratic and inclusive Europe. With other words, we are showing Jewish individuals and initiatives who are creating a better society, a better future for all Europeans. So we show and give platform to initiatives that are active in the field of human rights, combating poverty, racism, or interface dialogue. So by now we have quite a couple of pieces up online on YouTube, but also on our website, which I'm going to send you later on, with such initiatives. And really the idea is to change the narrative about European Jewry, which is very often portrayed as being passive or as being victims, and not necessarily individuals who are standing for European values and trying their best to create change and create impact in their societies. So that's I think one of the most successful parts of NOA. We have at this point 1.2 million clicks on our campaign materials. So if you look at our Instagram profile or our YouTube channel, you will find a lot of interesting materials and short videos. And at this point, I also wanted to say that there is an online platform where you can submit projects. So if you are interested to be featured and you are doing a similar kind of project, or you know someone who is doing something similar that would be eligible, through our website, you can submit your IDs, and if they match our criteria, we'll get back to you as soon as we can, and we will try to make it happen. So we also want to give publicity to initiatives that are somehow under the radar. There are some very well-known great Jewish initiatives in Europe that would fit this criteria, but we also want to make sure that we give voice to those individuals and those projects who have less access to social media. So that's really an open call for any of you. If any of you know about such projects, or you yourself run something similar, it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to have like a huge social impact, as long as it's making an effort to create a better society. It's great, and we are more than happy to have it included. So so that's the profiles campaign. Thank you, Fede, for putting the link there.
Yeah, thank you very much. And then I was wondering, Fede, if you can confirm if we are running out of time. Tommy, do you think we can share the video? Should we move on?
You still have time if you need. There's plenty of time.
So just to maybe show you a little bit one of the examples that we have, and then we will wrap up the presentation. Perfect. So just for you to see that this is one of the examples, one of the profiles that we have. And now we can move on. Just to wrap up, we can see here in the circle, which is part of the metaphorically of this motion of the NOA project, we can see how national report cards are aiming to produce policy change, then the training and teaching tools to
Sorry, Camila. I think that we cannot hear you well. There's a backup noise.
All right, let me see. Can you hear me better now? Not really.
Not really.
Now? Is it a little bit better, or should I?
Yeah, maybe. I think it's better. I think it's better. Yeah. Sorry for the inconvenience,
No,
Camila. Sorry for interrupting.
Thank you. No, thank you very much for letting me know. I was saying that here we can see maybe a little bit of the summary of the different work packages and their aims. So we have the national report cards, which aim to promote policy change. We have the training and teaching tools, which aim at promoting social change. Then we have the cultural activities and the profiles, which aim at providing more visibility to
Uh,
existing
I think I need to jump in because it's really hard to hear you, Camila. So maybe in the time being I'm going to start to tell a little bit more about the NOAA Compass, even though it's very much Camila's portfolio, and Camila is the one who is making it happen from the different countries. So I'm not I don't want to diminish that fact. It's just that probably now you can hear me better, can you? I hope you can. So the part of the NOAA project is an online interactive tool resource which is very much accessible already. It's of course it's also kind of under construction, and we are keep uploading new materials to it, but it's an online map where you can click on a certain country and different topics and themes, where you would find hundreds and hundreds of initiatives and projects that can be resources for public authorities and civil society organizations looking for best practices in the field of combating anti-Semitism. And when I say combating or overcoming anti-Semitism, it's really at its widest understanding. So organizations that are doing work, outreach work in the field of culture, education, remembrance, sports, who are aiming to overcome stereotypes and to reach out to the societies to talk about Jewish life and promote Jewish life and culture, that would be eligible to be included in the NOAA Compass. And it's really just a map. You can click on it, you can look up organizations, you can contact them. There's plenty of information. You can search by country or by topic, and it's available for all of you, which also means that if you are interested to be included in this tool, in this online interactive map, you can reach out to us either through the website or directly through Camila, and we are going to share her email and also mine at some point. It's going to be in your folder. um, of course, we are more than happy to hear about your organization and to include your organizations or other organizations that you know of and fits the criteria to the NOAA Compass. So we are still looking for other organizations. We hope to have 1,000 initiatives until the end of the year, which is not entirely impossible. The opposite, we feel that there are 1,000 organizations in Europe that are combating anti-Semitism with different means and tools and concepts. We are not really, checking all the organizations in a micro level on how they are doing it, but what's important that this is part of their mission. So it's going to be really in the end of the day a network of organizations on a virtual map that are trying to create change in this specific field in Europe today. So that is the compass. I don't know, Camila, did I forget something or I got it right? Okay, I'm glad to hear. So I think we still have a slide. Oh yeah, this is exactly how it looks like. So this is just, if you click on Germany, this is what would happen. It would give you a specific project that you can click on and learn more about them. But this is really just an example. And yeah, I think this is pretty much our last slide, if I'm not mistaken, which is how you can get involved. So I just really want to go back to some of the things we said already, that we are more than excited to have people included in the profiles campaign. We are happy to have organizations on the NOAA Compass. We would love to have more participants on our trainings, on our train the trainer trainings. And we just generally excited to be part of the European Days of Jewish Culture, and we are really just can't wait to see the fruits of the work of all these people who are making it happen. And we just want to make sure that whenever you have questions about NOAA and and anything that NOAA can, any ways NOAA can help you make that happen, we are really here for you. And we also try our best to be good partners for APJ to make this joint venture successful. So I think that was my very quick introduction together with Camila and Robin to NOA. If you have any questions, the chat box is a great tool for that, but you can also look us up in any other platforms such as emails or phones, and I'm sure that Federico and Victor can make that happen too if you can't find me. So if an institution have a project, how we can work together. So we are very much happy to support partnerships. So it's feel free to reach out and we can discuss that. But but it really depends. If you want to be featured as part of the Profiles campaign, we can feature partnerships. If you want to be featured in the Compass, we can also put you as partners. So we can be really open to that.